What's up, people? Welcome to Hey Jai. See, we got a little background music in there. You feel me? Episode 3 or 4 of this season, this installment of Hey Jai. Uh, Most recently, what we did was the beef cast. We had the guest, the boy B Roy. Y'all gotta check that video out after this. Yeah, man. Just coming back to y'all with. We're gonna get back a little more on topical today. Topical. That's not a word. Uh, um, See, I was gonna do an episode a little bit later last week, but man, we just been getting hit with this track after this track after this track after this track after this track, and it's been super disrespectful. I did have a theme for the episode today. The episode today is about being likable. There you go, being likable, being likable. How that's a skill, and so I was gonna talk about Amanda Seals and her interview with Shannon Sharp, and some of the things Dan Sanders did, things like that. Just talk about like the general scope of being likable with people, and I still am. Um, but I kind of want to pivot to, I guess, my example. And hopefully after this week we don't really have to mention anymore about the rap beef. Just because seeing the perception of what happened with Drake versus Kendrick and how it's being viewed online, especially with all the personal attacks and things like that. I'm not even gonna touch the allegations. Touch the allegations. That's ironic. I'm not even gonna touch the allegations that they got going on, but just seeing the massive wave of one side versus the other in our culture, yeah, it's up there. So a lot of people against Drake, and I think a lot of that goes back to being likable. So, in general, I think that being likable is something that a skill that everybody should have. If you're looking to advance your professional career, if you're looking to advance in your social life and things like that, being likable is very valuable. And some people are just naturally likable. They're charismatic. We know those people that were like class presidents or popular in high school and things like that. People that everybody just kind of gravitates towards them. They just have like really good energy and charisma about them. People in life of the party, things like that. So there is something that I say is universally likable. Just people that you would want to be around, even if it's not necessarily anything specific. Those people are typically very positive. Um, just a general. If they had to be a drink, there'd be water. Everybody likes water, or everybody is fine drinking water. They don't necessarily have a particular flavor. They can kind of meld with anybody, right? Now, it might not be your particular first choice to hang out with somebody like that or to be around something like that, but it is very useful in being likable. I got friends that are very successful in their career paths. They move up in their career paths, and they'll all tell you the same thing, whether it's in corporate, whether it's developing networking relationships, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. If we live in a society, so you're gonna have to deal with other people. You can't really be shunning in a solo act, and being likable will take you very far in that aspect. Being likable will take you farther than being skilled, and that's no joke. Because I'm not gonna say farther than being skilled, but you have a lot more runway. You don't have to be as skilled or as proficient or as invaluable in terms of what you bring to the table. If people like to be around you, they're going to work with you. They're going to bring you in. People who get invited in on business deals, a lot of these people are friends. You know, so I guess we kind of already touched on it. I guess what my original thing was going to be Amanda Seals. So last week, or maybe the week before, it's been that long. Amanda Seals went on Shannon Sharp's podcast, and so um, she went on Shannon Sharp's podcast, and everybody's been going on Shannon Sharp's podcast ever since Cat Williams has been telling their truth, right? That I don't believe in their truth. There's the truth and how you felt about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but everybody's kind of been telling their truth, and Amanda Seals went on there because you don't know who Amanda Seals is, she was in Floetry, which I found out later on in life, but she's an entertainer and actress. First time, you probably know her from Insecure. She was the light skinned woman in Insecure. She's always the face of a lot of backlash for some reason. I think she's a political correspondent, but I'm not sure. She talks a lot about things that are going on in Black culture, Black society, and things like that, mostly from her social media platforms, but so does everybody these days. I mean, shit, you watching this from my social media platform. Amanda Seals is a very intelligent woman. That's what I gathered from the interview. But she was just going along with all the different, I guess, major events in her life and her career and things like that. And they were all bad. She was always beefing with somebody. And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, I like Amanda Seals. And her name kind of picked up traction after she didn't go to she didn't get invited to, I believe this, the NAACP Awards. And so the NAACP Awards, and I think that, you know, she went on like a rant saying that, you know, I host the awards, I'm gonna speak up for Black people. Why do these people just don't like me and things like that? She's like 40, right? And she's just kind of like, why they don't like me? And I think that, you know, regardless of what people say, people enjoy being liked. Does everybody need to be liked? No. Does everybody have a yearning to be liked? No. But people enjoy being liked. That's natural. It's human. Life is better whenever people like you. It just is, right? Whenever people dislike you, because I do think you can be neutral, but whenever people dislike you, how they feel about Amanda Seals, life is harder. She isn't in certain circles. She's in networking things. She has a reputation, so people have preconceived notions about her. People say things about her online. People say things about her in deals. You know, it's just a bad look that she has because she's considered difficult to work with. She's considered an unpleasant person to be around. And you can tell she doesn't really have too many friends in the industry, and that was a big thing that I got from her interview, right? And so I think that sorry about that. Like what was I saying with Amanda Seals? Yeah. So that's what I kind of took from the interview is that she essentially kind of burned bridges. And now, granted, it was from her perspective. So of course, you know, she felt that it wasn't her fault. And objectively, you can kind of look at it. It's just kind of like, well, if she's very intelligent and she doesn't shy away from that intelligence. She's intelligent. She's outspoken. You know, she's confident in herself. She's very self-secure, and she's secure in her knowledge and intelligence, rather, right? And so she kind of leads with that. And there's a lot of people that can lead with that. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy on the planet, but it's somebody that, you know, that wasn't the most social or, you know, I kind of had to learn. It's just like, okay, nobody likes a smart ass. Like, nobody likes to know it all. Nobody wants necessarily to be around it. Sometimes it's just cool to vibe and go with the flow. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean shy away from your individualism, but there is something to be said of always kind of having to be the smartest person in the room or showing people up. A lot of people don't want to be around that. And so that's kind of the vibe I got. She seems like somebody that I would like just because, you know, she has a lot of interesting stories, a lot of good conversations. She seems she'll be good in debate. But I don't know. I'm weird like that. I like girls who argue. So, but yeah, man. She also kind of caught flack in that interview by saying that she was self-diagnosed as autistic. That's a whole nother thing. Matter of fact, we're gonna segue into that before we get back into being likable. A lot of people have been like self-diagnosing themselves as autistic or on the autistic spectrum. Man, I don't think you can do that. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't think you can do that. I feel like a lot of people are using that it's just a mechanism for use of their poor social skills, or, you know, why am I being rude to people? Oh, I have autism, or and every other buzzword, self-diagnosed disease and things like that. Like, man, just if you actually are on the spectrum where you go see a healthcare professional or psychiatrist or something like that. But some of y'all just rude, man. Y'all don't have autism. So I don't think Amanda Seals has autism, but I don't know. I don't know the test that she used on herself. But yeah, that was just my little rant on that. But her whole thing is about being likable. Now, notice it's also about how you do it and who you do it around. Being brash, being outspoken, being hyper self-confident, because for some people that actually works in their favor. Likable people have all those same traits, but I think what gets lost is the delivery from being someone that can be considered unlikable, right? So that kind of wants to bring me to my next example, Deion Sanders. So last week, again, this kind of got lost all in the shuffle of the Drake versus Kendrick thing, which I'm gonna let you know how it ties into. Deion Sanders was reportedly telling his Colorado players like, "Hey man, you need to go hit the transfer portal." Right. And Deion Sanders, ever since he took that job at Colorado, has been a very polarizing figure because all my life, Deion Sanders was beloved as a great football player. Some people saying the greatest football player. Um, and whenever he stepped into coaching, whenever he first stepped into coaching at Jackson State, he had this proclamation like, "Hey, I'm going to. God told me to come and save HBCUs." Had a great run at Jackson State. Got some, high prospect talent there, most notably Travis Hunter. But after 3 years, apparently some issues with, the alumni and the board. He left and went to job in Colorado and took his best players with him, took his sons with him, which, listen, I have no problem with him using nepotism. I do kind of feel that he really used the HBCU thing as a launch pad because I don't think anybody was giving him a coaching job at first, and they kind of wanted to see if he could coach. So I think his goal was to always get to a Power 5 school. But I'm not about to get into that. I feel like we had a whole episode about that. But neither here nor there. Regardless, Deion is still pretty likable outside of, people in HBCU cultures and circuits who said that Deion abandoned him, things like that. But overall, he's still pretty likable. I mean, every person at ESPN go up to Colorado. Every rapper is now a Colorado Buffalo fan. Gillian Wallow pretty much live up there. So yeah, he's still pretty likable. But Deion is everything that Amanda Seales is. He's confident. He talks a lot. He leads with his knowledge, which is a lot of time in football, a lot of time in competition, a lot of time in leadership. But he's charismatic. And his delivery, what it does is it has a lot of people that like him. So even if he does something that you might think is kind of wrong or just kind of assholish, for lack of a better phrase, most people are still going to ride behind him. So he was in the news last week, him and his son, which I don't think his son carries that trait of being as likable. I feel like that if he wasn't Deion's son, he wouldn't be as likable, and that's nothing to do with his skills as a football player. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. But so Deion was telling some of his Colorado players, "Hey, you're not going to play, dog. You might as well get in the transfer portal." Which I don't think is a bad thing. As if anything, that's giving them a up and up, like saying, "Hey man, we got people that's either coming in or you're just not gonna get the playing time at your spot." And for a college athlete just trying to make the professionals, you want playing time over anything else. So I don't think that was pretty much an issue. But one guy took issue with it on Twitter, and he was just like, "Yeah, man, he didn't even try to get to know me, had to his minds or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He had success at his following school, whatever." But then Shador hopped in, and he was like, "He's mid. I don't even remember, bro." And then, of course, all the sheep and all the, the people that can't think for themselves, they hopped on. They started pole jocking, and then it was just like, "Yeah, bro, mid." They pulled up the dude's stats and stuff like that, and they weren't impressive and all that other stuff. And then people started going back. And Shador, of course, he's gonna step in for his son. People went at Deion, and it was like, "Your son mid," and this, and that. So Deion was just like, "My son about to be a top 5 pick. What you doing?" So Deion started basically going back for people on Twitter, right? And now keep the Amanda Seals example in the back of your head. If she did that, went back for people on Twitter about a decision she made, which is reasonable but could be asshole-ish, right? You know, people will be killing her. People have killed her. People still killing her. People killing her over what she did at the Shannon Sharp interview, which she kind of did some foul stuff. I really wish I would have deep dived a little bit more on that, but we here now. But with Deion, that's just not the case, right? On Nightcap, another Shannon Sharp show, he was saying that, hey man, you come my son, come with you on ESPN. It was like it's the same things, you know, like it comes off as jovial with Deion. He's just a likable figure, and I think that you can get away with things if you do have that charm, right? And some people are born with this. Some people it's a skill that you develop. I will say, whatever circle that you're in, try to be a little bit likable. You know, one of my key phrases is, if you want to accomplish something, look at who did it before you and see what you can take from them. Don't necessarily mimic them, but see what elements they had of things that you already possess. So if you're not a talker, don't try to be likable or fit in by starting to talk a lot, because then it's gonna be weird, right? But if you see, you know, you can make little one-liner jokes or something like that, just chime in where you can. Find your bag and then get into it. But, you know, try to be likable. You can't go through life solo. You're not going to accomplish much solo. One of my old employers used to say, and this is ironic, it was a white guy, but he said it was an African proverb that he learned this. He said, those that want to go far go together. Those that want to go fast go alone. Reverse that. But if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right? And I think that's kind of like a microcosm, you know, of what this whole thing is. It's society. Find you a tribe. Find your people to go together with. But to do that, you have to be likable. And I think that's more valuable than what people put it on, right? Donald Trump won the election because he was likable to a certain demographic. That's just the facts. In America, entertainers make as much money as they do because they're likable to the demographics that are going to spend money. It's like, let's just keep it a buck. Like, how valuable is musicianship? How valuable is watching basketball? Like, when the NBA playoffs, how valuable is that? But it's not. It's likable. The stars are likable. The people that Anthony Edwards, probably the face of the NBA right now. He's a great player. He's not the best player in the league. Well, I think he's one of the best players in the league, but like, objectively, he probably isn't the best player in the league. But nobody wants to hear that. He's fun. He has quotes. He's always smiling. He's dunking on people and things like that. He's likable. Being likable takes you very far. But it does have a point where, you know, it only takes you as far to a point, because there's a thing as being likable, and then there's also being phony. And I think once you get phony, that's whenever people start to turn on you, or people realize that. And if they realize it early, they just don't like you from jump. So it's one thing to be likable, be down, be one of, you know, they say it all the time, be one of the guys, right? But everybody ain't the guys. Everybody ain't family. Everybody ain't, you know, everybody ain't cool. Sometimes there's a lot of people that's just bending over backwards or acquiescing themselves. Pandering gets used a lot, mostly whenever a man agrees with a woman on the internet. That's not what pandering is. Pandering is compromising something that you don't want to do to gain the approval of others. That might not be the official definition of pandering, but that's the Haggai definition of pandering. So, and that we move to, I guess, the big show. So, unless you've been living under a rock or you don't listen to rap, even if you do listen to rap, because they're talking about this shit on like the news. Drake versus Kendrick, perception-wise, that's what we're talking about. In this aspect, Kendrick has definitely come off as more likable to the masses than Drake has. And I think Drake, which is weird because Drake is probably most universal. Um, and for a long time, Drake was the relatable rapper, the likable rapper. He was the guy that was rapping about his feelings, and he always stayed current with the times, right? So whatever he had going on, yeah, that's what we had feeling. Like in Marvin's Room came out. I was in like what, like seventh, eighth grade. You know what I'm saying? Like that's around the time you get like your first little heartache, first little crush, something like that. Oh yeah, I'm with that. Like it's like little stuff like that. Teenage fever. That's a weird example, but but the allegations that he got going on, he really shouldn't have put out teenage fever. But if you were a teenager when teenage fever came on, you, you know what I'm saying? Like you got it. He was relatable. He was the likable rapper until he started outgrowing his fan base. Or rather, his fan base started to outgrow him, and he kept going younger and younger and younger and younger. If you look at Drake's actions, you wouldn't think that he's a 38-year-old man. He's about to be 40 years old, man. He walking around with barrettes in his hair. He chilling with the streamers. He hanging around with Lil Yachty and Kai Cenat and all them and stuff like that. It's like, bro, you about to be 40. And I think that's the angle that Kendrick attacked. And I think that, it came off as corny. All right. Allegations aside, it came off as corny. And I think once you hit that corny switch, you become unlikable. Once you become inauthentic. Because another thing that Kendrick attacked was his authenticity in the culture of hip hop as it relates to Black Americans, as it relates to Black people, Black media. And the fact that Kendrick was able to really like expose that and give essentially a historical rundown of how he, leached off of these rappers, which I don't think that's true. He leached off them. I think it was mutually beneficial. He's a talented rapper. He helped a lot of people explode. He basically, they called it a Drake stimulus package for a reason. Not saying that these guys didn't have their own wave or anything like that, but it definitely helped. You know what I'm saying? But I think that whenever it kind of got exposed that, hey, this guy isn't a Black American, he's a Canadian. Why is he, rapping like he's from Atlanta or Memphis or Houston or New Orleans, right? You from Toronto and Degrassi. You grew up with a white Jewish mother, you know what I'm saying, in a Jewish neighborhood. You had a bar mitzvah, dog. Like, it's only so much, not and Black people aren't a monolith. Every Black American experience isn't the same. But I would find it very hard that I'm gonna say interracial, a biracial Canadian, a biracial Canadian man has the same experience as the average Black American, especially a Black American that goes into hip hop. That's a hip hop culture. It's just not true. He was a fan of hip hop who became a very successful artist. And I think that because he got exposed to his corniness, that kind of made him unlikable. Because if you see, even the disses aren't being perceived the same, right? Because it's way past the music. Now they're just getting messy. And more people are talking about the stuff that Drake is saying about Kendrick, to the point where Kendrick doesn't even have to acknowledge what he's saying about him. Right? Like, and that just goes to show that it's like, wow, everybody turn on Drake. He had a line in what's the last joint? Not Like Us. Wait, this song ended off. Everybody say "OV ho, OV ho." People been tweeting that all day. Like that's like, and this is somebody that Drake is arguably the biggest rapper artist in the world. We talked about that in the Beefcast. Go check that out. But how fast people turned on him because you saw somebody that could give you what you had that was valuable, but this is more likable. Kendrick Lamar became more likable than Drake. Drake went from being what everybody else was, the average experience, the average consumer experience, to Kendrick exposed him. And he was just like, nah, you're a weirdo who bites off hip hop culture, who deals in escorts, you freaky gambler. You know what I'm saying? Think you better than everybody. And Kendrick's like, nah, man, I'm just a family man. That's a good rapper. Kendrick was saying that, like, in a diss, how you gonna tell another man how you raise your son and teach him to pray and do all that, and it'd be a fire diss saying that you don't raise your son, you just a freaky ass boy. Like Kendrick just definitely came off more likable, and I think that is what truly won him the beef because at a certain point it stopped being about the records. Um, they were good. They were good songs. Don't get me wrong, very good songs. But at a certain point, people picked who they was gonna pick. People was literally tweeting paragraphs, dissecting it for days. Like, man, I don't fuck with Drake. Drake's this and this. I don't like Drake. Rah 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 rah. Fuck Drake. Right. So, be likable, man. That being unlikable arguably killed the biggest rapper because they was even playing Kendrick diss on the NBA playoffs. That diss was essentially calling Drake a pedo, but that's purely because he became unlikable. You're unlikable whenever it's 20 people. He says it's 20v1. They're not all just hating on you, and I guess that kind of just goes full circle back to my Amanda Seals comment of her saying that everything in her life seemed like everything was against her, nothing good happened, and things like that. And while that could be true in some instances, the fact that everybody is against you means that you do have some unlikable qualities. So I guess the biggest takeaway, the biggest lesson that I got from observing humans this past week is being likable is valuable. Practice being likable. Be polite. Speak on common ground with people. Try to be charismatic. Don't necessarily be a shunning. Don't be mugged up at the party and things like that. And you don't have to be wild and crazy. But it's cool to be likable because those people go far. Those people network better. So that's all I got. Check out Hey Jai on YouTube, IMS Productions. Probably gonna see this on Instagram at IMS Productions 2023. Hey Jai Live. Gonna be doing some lives coming soon. Yeah, man, that's what we got this week. A bit of a shorter episode. I started doing shorter because I don't feel like talking to y'all for an hour every week. We get in the studio, finished, built out. I know you see just like a little bit of fun stuff behind me. We get in the studio, finished, built out. Gonna be having some more guests, some more in-person sit downs, and things like that. So tune in. Like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy Jai, and I'm out.